right, welcome back to the Keiser Human Performance Podcast. I'm here with owner and founder of Project Wellbeing in Las Vegas, Sean Freitas, who I understand now, Sean, you are a newer father as well. So, number one, happy Father's Day to you.
Thank you so much, and happy Father's Day to you, Gabe. And thank you so much for allowing me to be on this podcast. Obviously, we're a big believer and user of Keiser. We have been for many years. It was actually my bucket list item as I was building my facilities. Like, oh man, one day I hope I can get some Keiser. Originally, I'd seen it at Bishop Gorman High School, and I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
how does a high school have all this cool equipment? And being able to bring that into Project Wellbeing and what it's turned into over the last 5 or 6 years has been amazing. So thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had the pleasure of being there a few years back when you first installed a lot of that Keiser and you're able to get it on site. I mean, what a facility you guys have. And I'm sure, I followed on social media over the years, and I know you guys have expanded and refined and really built this into a premier facility in the United States. So incredibly excited, really cool to see how far you've come even from that time, and really excited to hear about where you're headed in the future. So let's get into it. For someone who's listening in and doesn't know much about Project Wellbeing, what is it? Who do you serve? And really, what's the vision behind creating Project Wellbeing?
Absolutely. So Project Wellbeing, I believe, is 13 years old on December 23rd of this year. And to see its journey from being a solopreneur to, I founded the company with my ex-wife. We got a couple of management contracts in places, and ultimately 6 years ago ended up in the big location that we're in today. And that became, one of the first human performance centers in the United States that actually housed biohacking, recovery, and a full-on performance gym, and kind of what it's turned in today. And at that time, people didn't know about hyperbaric chambers. They didn't know about red light beds. I was actually able to design the facility in the eyes of a performance coach. So that means I got to individually select everything that our members would also use, and not just our professional athletes as well. Now, the goal was to create one integrated ecosystem. So whether you were a professional athlete, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, you could come here, you could train, you could get physical therapy, massage therapy, have a performance coach if you wanted, do your nutrition, get IVs, hormones, peptides, nutritional blood work done, DNA testing done. And the goal was to not have to refer out for all these individual components, because I used to do that. We would either lose the member or the patient, or the person would have a bad experience. So creating that entire ecosystem has definitely been probably the most aggressive venture that the company has took, especially over the last year, really prioritizing that we have a membership and everything that the person can do is an add-on into the ecosystem. Obviously, I want to scale the business into probably a 60,000 square foot facility that's built for 1,000 members. And we wanted to simplify our model. It's not easy for gyms, quote unquote, to make it in the industry. It's quite challenging. So, of course, we have to respect our big competitors like Equinox and Lifetime. But we have our own unique spin that we're going through here. And that's really on human performance, and then how we develop human development to the actual person as well. I think that's what makes us unique. So kind of going through that whole transitional phase over the last 4 to 5 years has been amazing. And now we know what our focus point's going to be on.
So this concept of real human development, when you say it, it sounds great, but what does it truly mean to you?
So it means everything to me. So it's about showing up as the leader, on top of just being a coach or someone working at the front desk or the physical therapist, like really showing up and caring for the individual. I think that's what makes our facility special. It has a very unique sense of community and a very unique sense of culture, and you can feel it from the second that you walk in. So when you come in, it looks amazing, but I think that the people that we have here, the employees that we have here, the care that's given here, and the processes and procedures that we've made, and of course the programming, all that together, I feel like has enabled us to offer what I call now human development. So we're not just, taking someone's money and running them through a training session, or they're doing their blood work, or they're near PT. Like, we're sitting with them. We're figuring out, hey, what do you have going on? A lot of these people, they're super high level. They run 8-9 figure businesses as well. It's not just professional athletes, but all those people need to take care of their body. They've put their health last. They put their business first. And not only do they have challenges in their business, but it also robs them from their personal time at home. As you know, both of us being new fathers, it's challenging to create a balance, right? And I found myself in a unique experience, like, okay, why don't we also focus on emotional intelligence while we're working with people as well? And that took a unique spin onto something that I don't think anyone's ever done before. And that's what I call the human development. On the human performance side, we got that. We have the best equipment. We partner with the best brands. Of course, we got all 35 machines on the floor, but it was missing something. It was missing the heart and soul of the facility, because it also happened to me. I was a high level entrepreneur and I got lost in the sauce, right? Like I was working every day. I kind of lost my own identity. I'm like, man, like, who am I? And that's when I really started focusing on leadership and emotional intelligence. And that is something now that we're able to give to our clients and facilitate. And it has been a amazing experience. It's allowing them to understand what it's truly like to take care of themselves first. So kind of being selfless, working on their self-worth so they can feel worthy within themselves. And I'm seeing that across pro athletes, nine-figure business people, kids that are 7 years old, grandma, grandpa that's 70 years old. It's kind of been incredible of being like, every person is a human being. Some of them just do extraordinary things with their body, but we can't take away the human out of the being, if that makes sense, right? And that's when I really started focusing on, we need to develop people. We are a people company. We want to develop people, and that's kind of going to be the mission going forward with expanding the company. I want to be the largest human performance and human development company internationally, not just here, locally. So that's kind of been like the big, 6-month vision that the company has taken on, and I can't wait to grow into that, in the next 18 months here.
We can't wait to watch you do it. So just one clarification now, when you first started though, did you see this being as more of a athlete performance type of space and then it quickly grew into something bigger than that? Or have you always had this vision of, hey, I want to work with as many people possible?
Funny you say that. So I've always worked with professional athletes, but majority of clients that I had prior to having the big business is everyone was middle age. So, men and women between 40 and 70 years old, but they didn't have Instagram. So what the world saw was hundreds of professional athletes over and over again. So people were like, oh man, we didn't even know that my daughter can come in here, that my mom and dad can come in here, because we just got kind of, pigeonholed into working with pro athletes, which is amazing, right? Like that's high accolades. That's great. And I kind of let my identity and my ego just stay right there. And I knew there's so much more out there. Then I'm like, all of the services that we're giving to these pro athletes, I'm going to give it to every single one of our clients, right? Like, why should they not experience what pro athletes have as far as recovery and as far as performance and being able to work with high-end people? And once I started to kind of break through that I call it an identity crisis, magical things started happening in the company. We became a human being company where we want to work with everyone. And now people can see that. We've always done it, but now if you go on our website, you go online, you can see that we're working with all kinds of people. So you might have, we had Ryan Garcia in here, we had David Benavides in here, we had Thor in here, but we also had people's grandma and grandpa in here. We had pro boxers at the same time. We had high school kids, and all of them are interacting with one another. It's really the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. And I spent a little bit more time now actually taking a step back and enjoying watching that unfold, because I was just running so fast in a straight line that I wasn't really seeing what was being built around that far extends out of these four walls. Like, I think I needed to see that to really foster. It's like, what direction do I want to take this company, into? Like, it's not just the gym. I thought that's what it was before. Like, I just want to own the gym. Then it turned into a, recovery center. Then it turned into, now we added medical. Oh, then we added physical therapy and we added massage. Now I'm like, okay, we are the premier ecosystem. And you have one person as a sports scientist that gets to work with all the other professionals that get to work with all the other people. And I feel like that streamlined process is very important, because you have one person leading the vision, but all the other specialists that are implementing their professional field for the one person. So it's not uncommon where an athlete or a person would have a physical therapist they're working with, their nurse practitioner, their phlebotomist, their massage therapist, their performance coach, and their nutritionist, all housed under one roof.
That's incredible to hear. And I can't wait to go through each kind of discipline that you have there under one roof. What you were talking about there with having, grandma and boxer and young athlete and youth athlete, it resonates with me as a college strength conditioning coach myself, or former. And I'll give one of my mentors, Deanna Roos, the credit for this at University of Texas. He used to bring some of the basketball athletes during the summer workouts, like on Fridays, to boxing classes at a local gym in Austin, right? Or he would take the bikes out and you go on the path, and all of a sudden you're interacting with all these different people that are actually not just like part of the university, because it's such a bubble there for those athletes, but part of like Austin and this greater community. And when I came to Chicago, I did the same thing. We would go to a boxing gym, and you're there with 40-year-olds, 7-year-olds, and it's just such a tight-knit community. It's such a cool feeling to experience. And I think there's so much, obviously the physical benefits to that, but also like the emotional benefits of that as well, that I think you were alluding to.
Yeah, and you said the C word multiple times. Community. That's what it's all about. Like making people, actually, let me rephrase that. Providing a space where people feel like they can belong to. I think
Yeah.
that's the most important thing. And whether they do $10,000 worth of services or they come in for a training session, treating them the same as if they're the top professional athlete in the world, or they're someone's mom and dad, or a high school athlete. Like that to me is what I really started to focus on. Is I want to make people feel special. I want to make them feel like they're part of a community. And I'm telling you that even professional athletes, especially guys that are recovering from an injury, man, they just want to feel like thank you for hearing me. I thought that my career was over. I was depressed. I had anxiety, but I don't want to talk to my wife about it. I don't want to talk to my coach about it. But they feel that sense of relationship that they're building with the people that they're working with that aren't going to judge them or have an opinion on there. I think that that's a real special type of love that is being able to, to exist inside of the building.
Yeah, it's really cool. You can hear in how you've gone about things and how intentional you've been for bringing this to a performance gym that you own into really like global well-being, right? That's the whole point. And it's
Yes.
really cool in that definitely oozes out as you speak. So I know you have a lot of certifications. I believe, you've done, I think when we met in person, you're like, I love just learning, right? You're a lifelong learner. You love collecting knowledge. If I'm listening in, I look at this and say, this is amazing. I want to own my own gym. I wish I could build a facility like this. I wish I could have all these things under one roof. Like, how do you go about adding performance medicine, adding physical therapy? Like, you're one person. I know you have a team. Are those contracted out? Are they brought in-house, like to actually be there? Like, how do you go about building out all these different disciplines before we dive in?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, of course, I loved, seeking out knowledge and certifications. I think at first it was just like, oh, I want to be the best. So it was very ego driven. So I got a bachelor's degree. I got a master's degree. I got a second master's degree in strength and conditioning, actually through the NSCA, through Concordia University. I was finishing up my PhD, and during the pandemic, they actually they had to cut funding, so they cut my PhD program from Concordia, and that was a blessing in disguise because what I did not have, and when we'll get back to that, is I had no business acumen. So remember, I'm still a business owner. I'm not just a coach as well. And I'm sure anyone listening to this knows that, man, it's hard to be a coach and a businessman at the same time. So we'll come back to that. Obviously, I was a big fan of the NSCA. I had all the ACSM certifications. I had all the NASM certifications. I think I did the first ever MMA conditioning specialist that they had. I've done the sports, specialist certifications. I was also a massage therapist. So I got medically massage certified. I was sports massage certified, lymphatic drainage. I did all of Eric Dalton's musculoskeletal alignment therapy. I did all levels of FST. I mean, we weren't making money for a while because we kept doing certifications, And as good of a therapist I was equally as good as a skill development coach as well. I waited too long to release the reins and let other people kind of guide and flow. And what that did is it's hard to give up your clients that are like, oh no, I don't want to go with anyone but Sean. No way. Not even going to think about it. Like they would go to another business, then support my current business, even though they were super loyal to me. Isn't that crazy? Because they just could not, I have to let go of you. Now, on anyone listening that also wants to own their own facility, man, I went to school that long. I didn't learn anything about business, right? So now I'm learning about SBA loans and I'm learning about personal guarantees on the SBA loans. And I'm paying loans and ordering equipment and getting accountants and managing finances, managing staff, learning how to be a actual leader, lead by example. Like people are going to mess stuff up, no problem. Give them direct feedback and move on. So learning how to sign leases, negotiate contracts, buying lots of equipment, and everyone wants to make the most money, but you have to hold your reins as a business to be, hey, I'll pay you this much because I also got 7 other things here. Are you willing to kind of bear with me as I build this facility for the first time? And that could be really, really, really difficult. I also, anyone listening, the Pre-C School of Speed, the owner drops a great knowledge bomb of how he bridged the gap for being a coach to the owner of Pre-C Speed School. It was amazing. I would never, I feel like me and him have a lot of the similarities from how we built our company. But yeah, that's how it worked. I want to have as many certifications as possible. And I'm like, I know nothing about business, and I'm running a business. And then I had to switch gears to go right into what I'm going to learn for business. And anyone listening, please make sure that you get 1 or 2 good mentors in your corner that are just going to tell you what you need to hear in business. And they don't need to be in health and wellness. They just need to be in business. And I was very fortunate to have some pretty good mentors that helped support me on the business side. And that really helped, the combination of both of those.
Yeah, that's terrific. So I'm curious now if I can kind of pivot into this client experience at Project Wellbeing. I'm really curious to get inside your doors and learn about the experience. So I could be a 35, 40-year-old person training. Let's take me, actually. I'm a 33-year-old dad. I'm a working professional. I used to be an athlete. I'm sure recreationally I still like to play sports. And I'm coming in your facility for the first time. And, I want the whole kit. Take me through that experience. Like, where do I start off and how do you onboard me? And let's just begin with that.
It's a great question. And that has been the sole mission over the last year because that's where we fell short, right? So we got a lot of feedback on that. So you come in, usually you've been through our pipeline. We know quite a bit about you because you've been talking to probably our sales director or you're in our CRM. So once you come in for that tour, now's our time to shine. We're going to take you through every touch point inside of the building, right? We're going to show you the entire gym. We're going to walk through the floor. We're going to cater that experience for you and what you've already told us and what your goals are. We're going to walk you through our assessments. We're going to show you the equipment. First thing we do is we take them straight onto the floor. We go right to the Keiser. Hey, have you guys ever seen this before? Push on the plus or minus button. When's the last time you've been able to move like this? And we move fast on the Keiser. Oh, wow, that's pretty cool. I've never seen that before. I'm like, well, guess what? This is amazing on your joints. And this is why this is the standpoint in our facility, right? Like we believe in it. This is right in the middle of the floor on our turf. And then we continue walking them through the facility. We take them through our biomechanics evaluation. We have a DEXA scan. We have a VO2 max. All of this is in-house. We make our own orthotics. We take them through the red light bedroom, the entire PT area where we have recovery equipment sourced from all over the world. Switzerland and Germany make some of the best ultrasounds on the market. We take them through the massage rooms. We take them in the hyperbaric treatment room. We have cryotherapy. All the hyperbaric chambers are included in the membership. We have something called a Rasha Dome, which you should look up after we end this call. And that is a frequency-based device that we actually work with the doctor on making frequencies for professional athletes, for getting out of depression, anxiety, for stem cell proliferation. Then we go into our what we call the Vitality Spa. We've got 2 saunas, high heat sauna from Finland that I designed, over 200 degrees. We have an infrared sauna at 150 degrees, cold plunge, hot mineral soaker, a second red light bed. And then we have our 2 medical offices where we do IV therapy, peptides, hormones, blood work, stem cells, ozone therapy. And now after the patient or the member has been on that full journey, now we sit with them and we say, hey, how can we help you meet your goals? And we'll set them up with a protocol and probably get them on a membership as well. So remember, our model changed. We are membership driven. And everything else you're going to do is an add-on, right? And that's the ecosystem. Now, after you sign up for your membership, the part that we missed that we went back and did is we needed to onboard you as a member. Now we make that non-negotiable. So your second encounter would be with our member concierge, and she would actually walk you through and teach you how to use everything that's in the membership as well, right? We would build you a custom recovery protocol. And if you're going to work with a trainer, you'll have your consult with them. So now you have your trainer that you're working with, you're getting proper nutrition, and you have your custom recovery protocol as well. So you may be doing hyperbaric chamber twice, red light bed 3 times, and high heat sauna 4 times if you're working on your heart health, right? In conjunction with that program from your personal trainer that's also going to reflect your heart health as well. So really, we've taken it and made a completely individualized protocol for every single person coming in.
Sean, quick question. So who's driving the decision making with this, with each client?
So now I have made all of the protocols for the company. So now everyone in the company knows all these client personas. So we have 5 client personas, and everyone fits into at least one of them, right? So once we identify that, we already know where you're going to fit, and we can mold you into that. So the staff is already pre-registered inside the computer. They know exactly what you're going to do in order for you to achieve that result there. Because it's easy to say, oh, I take care of everyone, but really everyone should fit into 5 personas, right? You have wellness enthusiast, longevity enthusiast, someone that's injured, you have a professional athlete, and then you have the guy that comes in and said, I want to do everything. I'll stay here for 8 hours, right? And yep. And then the biggest client persona we have is our founder and entrepreneur clients, right? These are
Yeah.
people that work a lot, and we have very specific protocols that we do with them because they have the least amount of time. So theirs is, what sort of time can you give to me? And we're going to fit the most important parts of your protocol in that allotted time, so they'll actually be consistent and continue to do this for months instead of coming in and stopping after 2 to 3 weeks, right? That's what we don't want.
Yeah. So if you have PT, if you have strength conditioning, medical, all under one roof, I imagine you don't always necessarily, and it's okay, have alignment between what everybody thinks, right, about maybe a solution. And correct me if I'm wrong. But my question would be, how do you create a space for discussion? And then like, how do you ultimately come to a solution for what this person might need if different disciplines perhaps disagree about how to go about things?
I think that's a great question. That's why I made my other company, Fortify Human Performance. That's my medical management company. So I bring on practitioners and I educate them on what we're doing inside of Project Wellbeing. So that way they know. So when they're with a patient, whether they're doing IV or they're going over their blood work, now they know, oh, hyperbaric chambers and red light therapy and molecular hydrogen, those things could reduce my inflammatory markers. So they can prescribe those things to the patient as well. And now we're all working together. Same thing with our physical therapists. We have our biomechanics evaluation. We have all of valve, force plates and everything. And they work with our performance coaches. So now our physical therapists can help work with our performance coaches at the same time. And we're directly catering to what the athlete needs. Because we're testing every person, their biomechanics and their strength, we're able to make programs that are specific to the client, the member, patient, or athlete. And that makes it easier for all of the disciplines to work together because we're going off of data. We're not going off of, well, I think that this is best. Well, no, if the client doesn't need that, then they simply don't need that. And I found that by doing that and everyone working together, knowing what the North Star is for every client, which is to optimize their human performance, that enables us to all work together. It's not uncommon where one person's working with 4 different people, a physical therapist, a trainer, they're getting a massage, they're doing their blood work. So they have one of my providers that go over their blood work with them every quarter. And now they have a full team. We're all working in a unison. So very rarely do we ever get in the situation where like, oh, well, I know everything and, you're right or wrong versus that, hey, I've got this idea. Do you think that this would be applicable? And, what I've done is I'm a big fan of this. My front desk person, that's going to be just as important as my doctor, just as important as my physical therapist, just as important as the performance coach. Because if one person thinks that they're better than someone else, whole system, gets shut down. Like really, I value every person in the company the same because, again, they're all a human and we all are good at certain things. When we all work together, we can create extraordinary results for people. And if you go anywhere, whether it be physical therapy and it's insurance based, or you go to the doctor, or you go to train, it's all fragmented, right? It's not all under one umbrella and one company. So all of the decision making is fragmented. And you have different people doing different things and at the expense of the clients, right? Because one person thinks that they know more than the other. I've got no problem referring someone else out of our building into the care of someone who's more qualified than any one of us, if it means that that's what the client actually needs. No problem. We got no problem doing that. There's no fear that we'll lose the person The bottom line is we're just trying to get the person exactly what they need. And when you operate from that type of authenticity, I feel like you just get enriched. You get more business that way because people can see that, yes, you make money from these services, but you're not after their dollars. You're actually after their long-term results.
Well said. And okay, so I'm picturing myself there. I'm going through your assessments, going through force play testing, and I like what you said about the North Star, right? But that North Star is individual to every person that comes in that building, right? And you anchor to that. So I do some force play testing. 4 weeks, I go work with strength conditioning, PT. How often am I coming in? Can I come in as often as I'd like to? Can I stay as long as I'd like to? And then how often am I retesting, right?
Yeah, great question. So in our Vitality membership, which is our main membership, it's an unlimited all-inclusive, right? So you can come to the gym, you have full access on the times that we're open. You can schedule all of your appointments privately in our app. So you're reserving your time for the sauna, you're reserving your time for the cold plunge. So it's not a free-for-all. We're very organized and methodical in the things that we're doing. Now, as far as retesting goes, very important question. Just like blood work should be done every quarter, we're trying to get people on a cadence of getting their assessments done every quarter. DEXA scan, biomechanics eval, strength test, and a VO2 max test. Now, once someone is on an upwards trend of like, oh, I'm feeling pretty healthy, here's my baseline, I'm like, now we're going to dig even more. That is your new baseline to where you should feel like. When you first came in here, you were not taking care of yourself. You were in horrible shape. Do not use that as your baseline. Use where you are now as your baseline and never let yourself go below that. So use that as your absolute baseline. So that usually motivates people to keep going. The benefit of getting assessments every quarter is you can see, oh man, I fell off the last 2 months. Okay, let me get back on track. And it's much more manageable. When you go 6 to 9 months without getting assessments again, it's almost like you can start over. And now you've wasted your health, you've wasted your time, you've wasted money. So by holding people accountable and holding us accountable, like if our program works and you're working with our program, then you should get the results too, right? More than likely is, hey, I want to hold you accountable, Gabe, but I'm not going to hold myself accountable, right? We don't do that as a company. We'll take the blame when it's our fault, and we're going to be there with you every step of the way through your health journey as well. My favorite term to use is we're giving you all of the data for your health to hold in your hands. You should control your data. You should control where your blood work is stored. You should control all of the things that we do for testing. You should know that. It should always be with you, right? It is your data. It's not gatekept. It's not getting sold or stored. These things are really important to me as we grow and expand. Is I want people to know that we're trying to put your health into your hands and give you every educational tool necessary. Before, I used to be like, oh, I don't really want to share that because people might try to copy it. No problem, because what they can't copy is the actual care and the facility that we've created. They can buy everything in here the same, but they cannot create that I call it the founder secret sauce, right? That's why I hold the most value. I know what that looks like. Money can't just make that. Money can make me a larger facility, but money cannot create that founder secret sauce.
Yeah, I love what you mentioned about holding yourselves accountable, right? It's very easy in the private practice to point at the client and say, well, if you could do this or change that. But, when do we really look internally and look inward and say, well, what do I need to change in order to get results?
I love, although I don't love it, but I love taking constructive criticism. I'll let someone chew my ear off because guess what? We dropped the ball somewhere. It's an opportunity for our entire company to get better. So I welcome it at all times. It just tells me that, hey, this is a great learning experience. We can make something better. If you're not hearing anything, that's usually something is not just that nothing's all going right. It means you got too many things going wrong and you don't have that space for people to actually say, hey, you messed something up, and usually we go up to her and say, hey, so sorry that happened. Here's how we're going to fix it. And if you wouldn't mind sharing any advice that you can, so that way it doesn't happen to you again or someone else. And people are like, they're stunned that we would take ownership like that, right? Then once we remedied it, I go straight back to the person. Hey, we fixed this. Again, I'm really apologize that happened. These are the procedures that we put into place. If you ever need anything, please let me know directly. And I'm telling you, man, now you locked in a 20-year client. Because when do people hold themselves accountable and admit that they've done something wrong, right? Like we do a lot of things in the company. Sometimes we drop a ball, we miss an email, we forget to send out results. Their blood work comes back, we didn't let them know. I mean, there's a lot that goes on there. We overbook an appointment. All those things are okay. Everyone does them. But how do you hold yourself to a high standard, and how do you kind of get through that? And what type of customer experience do you give during that time, right? You don't learn anything when the customer's happy, but you learn everything when the customer is pissed off, and you need to make them feel better. But they're caught off guard when you actually take the initiative. Like, I am so sorry, Gabe, I messed up. Okay, it's not something that we want to do. We're going to make it right for you. Let me circle back for you within 48 hours. I'm going to let you know what happened. We're not going to let that happen to you again. It's the weirdest thing. And even though, yes, it's tough for the business owner to get all that criticism, I absolutely love it because I am getting better. I want every day for my company to get a little bit better. I want myself to get a little bit better. I want my staff to get a little bit better.
Now you've taken, likely what could have been bucketed as a failure and turned it into probably your biggest strength, right? A
Yes.
lapse or a moment of failure and turned it into really the biggest strength. And you actually earned more trust from your clients by screwing up than not in that case.
Yes,
You flipped it on
absolutely,
its head,
yeah.
which is really unique. And I can tell how refined you are with that. And I'm sure there was a learning curve to all of that.
Oh my God, there was a learning curve. Wow. Yeah, I mean, anyone listening, big learning curve. Big learning curve. Have to let go of the ego. Have to let go of the ego. It took me a long time, and really working on my own emotional intelligence for myself and I call it emotional EQ. It took a long time to be able to do that. I just wasn't being honest with myself. And if you think you can do everything yourself, it's the worst thing you can do in your company, because everyone will be paralyzed. They'll think, I can't do anything without Sean doing it, And I made that mistake before. But it's all about going back and owning the mistake and getting better. And this is the same with coaching. It doesn't need to be owning the facility as well. But if you want to own your own facility, you got to get used to dropping your ego, because it's really hard. It's really hard. You're depending on other people to work for you. They're not you. They don't pay your bills. They don't pay your loans. They don't generate revenue for the company at large magnitudes that pays your six-figure payrolls. Those are all things that the owner must bear, and he must do so with grace, right? And that's something I've really learned over the last year was giving myself the grace to make those mistakes, but then know that at any given time, there's going to be 20 problems. That's okay. I'm going to go to sleep with 20 problems. I'm going to wake up with 20 problems, but I'm going to show up in a professional manner. I'm not going to show up emotionally. That's been a big change in my own leadership to my own crew here.
I would guess that you've had some moments throughout this process in the last 13 years where you said, this isn't going to work, right? That voice inside your head told you this isn't going to work. Maybe you're staying up in the middle of the night and you're like, how am I going to make this happen? What do you point to in those inflection points that say, hey, this is why I got it done, or this is what I turned to?
Absolutely. So the biggest thing is you have to get out of wanting to prove yourself to others or operating out of fear. Both of those will corrupt everything around you. You have to move your mindset from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset, because that enables you to operate out of a place of love and vulnerability, which is weird for me. I wish my little thing broke, but hi, my name is Sean. I am a loving, vulnerable, joyous man, right? That's not the type of contract you would look if you see me, but I am a leader. I can be aggressive. I can go ahead and do stuff, but I was missing those key components of how other people are going to interact with you, right? So, I've done many certifications. What helped me the most is doing emotional leadership training, right? It was super uncomfortable. It was things that I was not good at, but getting a hold of your emotions is single-handedly one of the most powerful tools that you can use for your own career development, your development personally with your own personal relationship with yourself, your significant other, and then of course, if you own a business, right? And going through each one of those hard times for absolute certainty and ending in okay, I can clearly see what I was not doing well, and then owning it. I think that's the problem with people. They're not willing to own it and be like, man, I messed up for 4 years. I don't like saying that, but you got to own it. Now, you may have to undo everything that you did for 4 years. You may have to pay. Remember, there's a cost for every decision. And once you remove your mindset from being the victim, you can actually process and get through all those decisions, right? I had big employee turnover, and now we only hire people in the company that has our 6 core values, that has our company culture in mind. And that goes, I wrote a blueprint of hospitality for every position in the company. And we have a blueprint for how we hire someone, right? Since implementing that, we have brought in real team players that believe in the vision. I want to support them just as much as they want to support me. That was the biggest change. I believe the best coaches in the world understand how to do that at any level that they're coaching at, right?
Have you read The Go-Giver?
I don't think so, but I'll put that in my
It's a short
list of
little book. You
books.
read it. You read it in an hour.
Okay.
It may resonate with you though. I think when you mentioned abundance mindset versus a scarcity mindset, that came to mind. So I think you might really enjoy that. So okay, earlier, kind of pivoting again back into this performance realm. Earlier, we were talking about having a number of different types of people or personas on the floor at once for strength conditioning, right? You could have an older adult, you could have a premier athlete in there at once. Like, are they doing similar things? You said one coach might be working with 6 different people at once. How does a coach do that?
So one member may have 6 different professionals that they're working with.
Got
So
it.
they may have like
Okay.
So for our coaches, predominantly we'll do majority is one-on-one training. We might do some partner training, but majority is one-on-one. And for sure,
Okay.
each of those people have completely different workouts as one another. Now, if we do like NFL off-season training, or we've got a group of combat athletes, they may have similar workouts, and some of them may have differences in that group workout as well. But what I found out is all of these things, and this is interesting, golf had been the most helpful type of training that I've ever done before. I forgot that I was TPI certified. Fitness, performance, level 3 medical. I forgot that was also expensive. What that did was it taught me, I'm big on rotary power, anti-rotation, segregating the movement of the upper and the lower body. But all of those things coincided to where a lot of these training programs are really similar for the athletes. Now, remember, we are not a skill development center. So I don't pretend that I'm a defensive end coach. I don't pretend that I'm a tennis coach. But what we do is we help them with their biomechanics that they need to facilitate their movements without having compensation while reducing their injury. And the number one thing that I think makes us different is we are working on acceleration based training, right? And we specifically use the Keiser for that. Like when everyone says, oh man, I've never worked out like that before, that got our nervous system. It's because I am trying to allow them to understand that the faster they initiate their movement, the more power that they're going to produce, right? They can cover more ground in a sprint because they're opening up their stride length, because they're reaching acceleration at a more rapid rate than the person right next to them, right? I'll use like David Henry as an example in the NFL. He's not the fastest. His stride length is so big and powerful. He approaches terminal velocity very, very, very quickly, right? So again, using all those methodologies, and I really think that focusing on that initial acceleration, how fast we can produce speed, has been single-handedly a huge game changer for our facility. I think that's what makes the workouts different. They're very specific things that we do, with the Keiser, being able to get live feedback, that's also huge, right? No other machine can give you live feedback. Now, the cool thing is people haven't seen the analog screen, but when they get to the digital one, their mind is completely blown. We're fortunate enough to have one of your deadlifts here. And they're like, wow, holy crap, we've never seen being able to have live feedback. Like, that doesn't even make sense to them. So all those tools are so helpful in the way that we're able to execute what we're doing with the clients.
Yeah. And my question to you would be, for all the pieces that you have there, is there one that maybe is underappreciated or you didn't fully appreciate, but now with time, you've come to say, wow, like this has been a game changer for us?
I think that because I was the one that was doing them all in the beginning, I underappreciated our assessments. So when I stepped away to run the company, I didn't do a good job of passing the torch on to everyone else and be like, these assessments are absolutely incredible. They take what we can do on Keiser and validate it with data. They take the person that couldn't bend over because their back was hurting, and we can see that difference on the force plates, but we can also train them safely on the Keiser leg press because it's not loading up their lower back. And each one of those things, it became, can we validate this with data? And I didn't appreciate the fact that we could do all that in the building because I was doing it every day. So now that's a main component of what we do with our performance coaches, our physical therapists, is getting them to utilize the assessment tools that we have in here, and then go back and be like, now how can we implement this in the training? I'll tell you
Yeah.
what,
So are you go ahead.
my two favorite pieces of Keiser. This is really hard to pick two, but I love the Squat Pro and I love the Belt Squat solely because you can still get people really strong without putting that bar on their back. You know, that's a big thing. As I realize that my own injuries occurred from there. I watch all these NFL guys squat 500 pounds and they're rotating at the bottom with that weight on them, and I'm like, there's a better way. There's a million ways to get strong, and we got the tools that, you know, and that's necessary. Actually, one item that I didn't appreciate enough was your pec fly. Your pec
Why do
fly.
you
I
say that?
started using that because it felt kind of odd. Like it wasn't. It was hard to get you inside of that movement. Then I started using it myself. And be like, okay, I have an appreciation for this. Then I started using it with the athletes, and what I was specifically using it for is I would load them up real heavy and have them maximally go through speed with that. What that did, especially for the football guys, is I mean, pec tears are very common, right? Bicep tear is very common, and that movement there, that was like, oh, okay, this is a great tool. I underestimated what this would do. I just ordered it because I wanted every piece of your equipment, but I was like, okay, hold on, this has got a pretty unique place in my repertoire for training athletes now.
I don't spend enough. You can see I clearly don't spend enough time on it.
Yeah.
You might have me beat there. I would think too that with the community aspect that you've built, you mentioned having these high performers in a lot of different areas of life, especially entrepreneurs, people with big businesses. I would imagine there's some sort of like maybe collaborations between clients and some crossover that's come out of the gym potentially. Not that you have to expand on them, but it's part of the
Yeah.
community. It's part of the added value.
That has been one of the coolest things ever because, okay, as a professional athlete, people are always asking for your autograph or something. They want something from you, right? We're in here. A lot of my members, they're a little bit older, so like they're hanging out with the athletes in the sauna. Then they're getting PT with them. Like, oh man, that's like what you guys were doing out there was amazing. And then the athletes are like, yeah, but you're 65 years old and you can still run and you're doing box
Right.
jumps. Like we're inspired. And then you can see like this entire conversation unfolding. And I'm telling you, that truly is the coolest thing. It really is the coolest thing to see that the respect from the general population to the professional athlete when it's wholesome and authentic is really cool. I really think that that's why people like coming in here. I mean, you got clients that are super successful in business, just giving some words of wisdom to some of these athletes on how to protect your money, getting a trust, setting up an LLC. They don't want anything from them, but they don't want them to go down the same path as they waste everything that they had and they don't protect the things that they've gotten in their life, right? Or just on how to overcome adversity. Maybe the 60-year-old man, he hasn't been a professional athlete, but the athlete in there is recovering from an injury. But that 60-year-old guy, he's lost his business twice. He's got a divorce. He had multiple deaths in the family. The conversation that can unfold inside is amazing. I've seen the interaction between everyone. It makes me more invigorated to continue to build off of this. Like, I want to build in every city the coolest feeling places that you could ever go to, right? Like, yes, the gym will look cool. Yes, it'll have high tech, but what is it going to feel like when you come inside of there? And I want it to feel like love and family and you're having fun. I think if I can make the gym feel fun, like I remember when I was in college, I'm calling up all my friends, hey, can you come to the gym at 4 or 3? Let's meet after work. It was really fun. When you lose your workout partner and you're just going solo, it became kind of unfun. It became kind of like a chore. But why can't you
Right.
do that when you're 50? Why can't you do that when you're 60 years old? Right? Why can't you do that when you're pregnant? Why can't you do that when it's postpartum? Like building a community and having people around you that have the same goals and being able to tap into them is the most important.
Absolutely. You got me excited just listening to all that. And my question for you, as you think about the future of Project Wellbeing and the impact on, in the health and performance community, what excites you most? What is the big vision that you have?
Yes, I wasn't thinking big enough before. So the big vision, number one, is going to be authenticity. We have always maintained integrity. So I will continue to do everything the right way. We don't have things in here that we don't believe in. We don't sell people things that they do not need. Now I understand what it really means to kind of create this type of culture. And I want to be the largest human performance chain in the entire world, right? I want to go international. I want a Project Wellbeing in every major city. I'm going to grow. We're going to grow into Project Wellbeing 3.0. We look to get about a 60,000 square foot building. We're going to run that. And if the option is to produce a lot of franchises, we'll do that. If the option is we have private equity and we're building out all of the locations, we'll do that. But because we spent so much time before, I thought, oh man, 12 years, like where's my breakthrough? But what was happening is every single year we were getting a little bit more wise and mature in order to facilitate this next stage of growth. And I'll tell you what, I, as the leader, wasn't ready for the next stage of growth. I wasn't developed enough to be a leader, right? I hope you can hear my confidence I have in myself because it's real, because I did the leadership work in order to be that way. I don't have to be someone I did that work. It took a long time. Now I'm excited. Now, not only do I believe what we can do, I believe in myself to actually go ahead and carry out. I believe I can get investors. I believe I can scale and grow the company. I believe I'm an easy person to work with that can actually do the things that they say. So that's what I'm most excited about in the future of Project Wellbeing.
Awesome. And Sean, for someone who wants to follow this journey, for someone who wants to get in touch with those at Project Wellbeing, maybe follow on social media, what are some good resources for those people?
All right, so we have to make a new Instagram because someone wanted to hack into our 12-year-old Instagram. That was interesting.
Really?
It was an identity releaser. Got a brand new Instagram. It's at Project Wellbeing LV. So you can follow the company one. My personal Instagram is at Sean Freitas _elite coaching. And of course we have our website as well. And I'm always open. I have, coaches and stuff reach out to me all the time that you want to come here and just spend like half the day here. I'm totally open to that. I was blessed to be able to do that a lot when I was younger. So anytime anyone ever wants to come, like they're totally welcome to do so. It's like the best way to learn and to get into a space. Like if you wanted to learn about something, just go knock on the door and ask. The worst you could get told is no, but never asking is even worse because then you just don't know.
Yeah, leans back into that vulnerability that you were speaking about earlier. So here's the last question I have, a really important question. For those that are around the facility or in the Las Vegas area, what is your go-to dining spot?
Ooh, I'm going to have to say Barry's Steakhouse. One of our clients is Yassine, Chef Barry. They've got two other amazing partners there. And I'll tell you what, Yassine is an incredible person. He teaches me a lot about hospitality. He has over 100 employees. And every single one of them are very well respected. Hospitality and the gym culture is almost identical. They're two very difficult businesses to manage because you have a lot of overhead costs, especially in the restaurant. But beyond that, the food is amazing. It's always a great experience there, no matter when you go. They have so many professional athletes that have been inside of there. But I'll tell you, the number one reason is actually supporting all of the owners that own that place because they are authentic and they've all risen from just being chefs, or being in hospitality school to see them build. And the place is absolutely beautiful. So that's going to be one of my top places to go in Las Vegas.
Barry Steakhouse. Make sure to check it out. Sean, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for taking the time this afternoon to be on the Keiser Human Performance Podcast. You've been a great partner for us here at Keiser, and we're happy to do what we can on our end to continue to support you, and just really appreciate everything that you've done, and really excited to see this thing continue to grow. So thank you for your time.
Absolutely. It's amazing to see your guys' footprint has expanded all over the world. So it is truly amazing, and you're still local in California, which is awesome. That's so hard to do. So I give you the accolades on being able to continue to do that. In fact, that's probably the coolest thing ever to see. I'll do a little UGC, as they call it, behind the scenes. Thank you so much for letting me be on here, man. It was awesome.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, happy to do it and excited to catch up with you soon and really appreciate it. And next time in Las Vegas, can come knocking on that door. So thanks, Sean. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gabe. You have a great day.
You too.